If it wouldn't have been for all this Iranian stuff happening, I would have left on a high. There was something about the gathering that was really, it's just that we went straight from there to crisis, intense crisis.
Yeah,
And the sense of every time we think it can't get worse, it gets worse.
it is. It does.
And then it's even worse than we expected. And then so even worse and worse that ways that we couldn't even imagine.
Welcome
So
to Women Ending War, the podcast where Palestinian and Israeli women talk about partnerships for peace, real solutions, and ideas for crafting a new world.
It's where we express our pain, anger, dreams, creativity, and vision, where hope is a conscious choice.
معاكم أميرة مسلم.
I'm Elana Stockman. Thanks for joining us.
Marhaba, Amira.
أهلا إلانا سلام.
Hi, how are you?
Christoph.
Better,
I'm
better.
good.
Okay, so let's just explain what just happened here. Okay.
Yeah.
June 17th, we were scheduled to launch season 4 of our podcast. So exciting. We had a whole bunch, I don't know, 4 or 5 recordings already ready to go. All about important things about Gaza, about the West Bank,
Yeah.
about even things happening in America. We have still a great interview about protests in America and issues there. All of that waiting to go. And then a couple of days ago, everything exploded. Just when we thought it couldn't get worse, it got worse. And just when we thought life couldn't be more alarming, it is much more alarming. So anyway, we're going to put off that scheduling because we have to talk about what is right now. So first of all, welcome everybody to season 4. This is our brand new, unplanned episode 1 of season 4.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about, what's going on and how it's affecting us. Just for the record, we are in very different places. Amira is at home in Beit Jala, and I am at the moment in Greece. I was in Paris when all this happened. I was at the Paris Peace Conference, which I want to talk about. And, the first day of the Paris Peace Conference, all that happened, 500 Israeli and Palestinians getting together for peace, suddenly were upended by all this. And then, everybody sort of scattered. There are still about 100 people, I think, still left in Paris. But anyway, I came to Greece, which was where my original ticket was. And here I'm waiting for something to happen. But anyway, okay. That's just the explanation of where we are and what we're doing. And okay, so Amira, now, how are you really? How are you?
There is no really words to explain how I am. It's a really mixed feelings of tired. I'm very, very tired. It's been sleepless nights the past few days because all the missiles and rockets and all these explosions happen at night. And even if it's in Tel Aviv and Haifa, most of them, we could feel them and hear them from here. And imagine how the sound is so big. And when they are
there was an explosion in Hebron, wasn't there?
yeah, and Sa'ir, above Sa'ir. And it was the missile just landed on a house of a Palestinian family, and 5 people were injured just a few days ago. And even here, when we hear that, Elana, we don't have such sirens. We don't have any kind of alarm for us. We're just waiting. We're looking up at the sky all the time. We're watching the news. We're following on the different news outlets out there, and especially the Israeli ones, because they are the ones who we know from about the alarms. And also we have a nearby settlement, which is Gilo. So when there is an alarm and sirens in Gilo, obviously we hear them. It's just in front of me. I'm sitting in my house and I can see them through my balcony. So when there is sirens in Gilo, we can hear. But if there is no sirens around here, we can't hear anything. Also, the most scary thing that we don't have shelters. So if anything happens or a missile drops down here, there is no place to run. There is no place to hide. Our houses are just normal houses, you know. It's not like something
Yeah.
special for rockets or whatever. So
Yeah. And also, like, with one of the first rockets landed in Tamra,
it's
you know, and Tamra is an Israeli Arab town of 37,000 people
yeah.
that has not a single shelter.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a single shelter.
And most
And, you
of
know,
actually most of the villages and the Palestinian towns in Israel don't have shelters, while the neighboring city or the neighboring village or like whatever like settlement which has like Jewish Israelis has the one beside Tamra has 19 public shelter just beside
yeah,
Tamra for Israeli Jewish, but for Israeli Arabs nothing is there. So that's why I'm telling you, like, it's really confusing for us and it's really scary because the missile doesn't differentiate if it's you're Arab or you're Muslim or you're Christian or you're Jewish. It's just a missile. And
right.
the dome,
And they're big missiles too. I mean, these missiles are the worst missiles. I mean, these are missiles that we're seeing can take down entire buildings, entire blocks. I mean, we've seen some of the damage here. I mean, these are missiles. They're kind of like what's going on in Gaza. You know, it's
yeah,
those kind of bombs, the
yeah.
kinds that can really, you know, take out a building, take out a neighborhood.
And
Yes. Anyway, yeah.
and the rock dome we call it, yeah, القبة
Iron
الحديد.
Dome, yeah, Iron Dome,
Hey,
yeah.
iron them, yeah. So when they do it and when like it goes up in the sky, it doesn't also know where it hits it. So it hit mostly, and most of the cases, what happens that these iron domes just hit those missiles, and those missiles they are blown up in the sky, but then they fall up. Their parts fall on us here. So most
Yeah.
of the cases of injured people in the West Bank were because of the parts of the all kind like the missiles and the Iron Dome. So it's really like scary, you know. We don't know from where to get it. We don't know what to expect. We don't have shelters and we don't have sirens. So last night for me it was really I think the most horrible night throughout this week because most of the nights I was awake all the night, you know, waiting and yeah, you know, following the news. But last night I slept because I was so tired. I was like sleepless night, so I needed to sleep somehow. And I had nightmares all the time because my body is sleeping, but my mind is you know anxious. I have a son. My son is like 9 years old, you know, and I'm afraid. I'm a mother. It's not about being Palestinian or Israeli. I'm just a mother. And I was
Yeah.
so afraid, and I was like, okay, what if there is a you know rocket somewhere here, and I needed to hug my son at least, you know, before I die. So yeah, I'm laughing, but
It's not funny,
it's
really.
so
Yeah.
scary, you know. It's so
Yeah.
scary, and I even can't imagine how in Gaza they have been living this fear for the past 2 years. You know, if here it's not like directed on us, and still we are like terrified. I
Yeah.
just can't imagine how all these mothers are bearing this feeling of
Yeah.
fear that any moment could be their moment, you know? So sad. I'm so
I was really thinking that too. The first night when, you know, of the attacks from Iran, and I saw the damage, you know, to these buildings, and you saw like in Rishon LeZion and also in
but yeah,
like in Tel Aviv, you see, yeah, and in Tamra also, you see these images and you think to yourself, oh yeah, these are the images coming out of Gaza. I
yeah,
mean, for those who are paying attention, you know, not as all Israelis pay attention to the images out of Gaza or care. And I ask myself whether or not these images will possibly affect attitudes of Israelis towards what's happening in Gaza, whether it'll enable people to really grasp a little bit better what exactly we're doing to Gaza. You know, when you feel that. I mean, I'm hoping that, I mean, I have no idea if that is real or not, but that was my thought. You know, my thought was like, okay, now we know what Gazans feel like a little bit. A little
we're
bit.
not even, yeah, we're not even there. Even with
Right.
all of this, we're not even
Right.
there.
Right. I understand.
Yeah,
You know, you're right, obviously.
yeah.
And I'm so angry, about what you're describing. I mean, I'm just sharing with you, like it makes me so angry. There's such blatant racist discrimination that our Israeli government has been carrying on for years, decades. I mean, this kind of policy in which, for decades, Israel has been protecting, building these protections like Iron Dome and shelters and all of that stuff. And to discover how black and white that discrimination is, how the resources for life-saving measures goes 100% to Jewish populated towns or Jewish and mixed, but that Arab towns and cities get, zero, even when, members of the government, I point this out, like there's a Knesset member named Naama Lazimi from what used to be, labor. And she wrote a report about this a couple of years ago. She's been pushing about this. She mentioned Tamra. She specifically put in an emergency request to put, shelters in Tamra.
Wow.
And nothing. It went nowhere. And so on the one hand, I look at someone like Naama Lazimi and I'm thinking, okay, thank God we have people like that. And she's in the government somewhere. But on the other hand, we're talking about systematic, system-wide racist discrimination. I
Apartheid. Can I
can't
call
deal
it
with that.
apartheid, Elana?
Oh,
This
you
is
know what? I was
apartheid.
thinking the same thing. I was thinking people who say, oh, people who like laugh, oh no, Israel doesn't have apartheid. This is exactly what apartheid is. Exactly this.
Exactly.
People who like, in the pro-Israel world, people will say, oh no, Israel doesn't have apartheid. Look, we have, Muslims on the Supreme Court and we have Muslim doctors and all of that. And it's like, you have to look deeper.
Exactly.
I actually write about this in my book, my book that came out in January. It's called In My Jewish State. And I have a whole section about apartheid. I take down that whole apartheid argument where people are like, no, Israel's not apartheid. And you got to look at this stuff in the face.
Exactly.
You got to look at this in the face. You got to stare at this and you have to say, how in God's name can you justify any of this? How? And then you look at the faces of the people who were killed in Tamra and, you're like, what? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? It's very, yeah. Anyway, yeah, apartheid. Yeah, malasad. What can you say? It's apartheid. I wish I didn't have to say that. I wish I didn't. I wish I couldn't look at that on. But we have to look honestly at what it is. Take an honest look, and instead of going straight to that, like, oh, let's defend Israel thing, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And also the other thing, if people like today, I was also very angry at like some of the videos on the social media where people are like, some Israelis are like, yeah, Israel has the right to defend itself. Again, the same conversation of self-defense and like we didn't started it, we didn't do anything, we are the victims, everybody hates us, everybody hates Jews, and we have to defend ourselves. And I was so angry that people are still saying that. Like, come on, stop it. It was so obvious. Iran and the States and Israel were on the table of negotiation. On Sunday, they were supposed to meet, like yesterday, they were supposed to meet and do like some, negotiations. And Israel chose Friday to hit them. Like, come on. Like, what are you thinking? And the second thing that I heard people talking on like social media, Israelis, like, yeah, Iran has nuclear weapon, and they when they have the chance, they will hit us and they will kill us all. That's not true. Iran never said that they will hit Israel. They never, like, go back to history, go back to like events in the past. Iran never said that they will hit Israel. Like, come on, And still, there are people who are saying, no, they will kill us, they will hit us, and they are still in this same mentality and fear, full of fear that everybody wants to kill them. Like, come on, people, wake up. That's not true. That's not true. The attack on Iran was unprovoked. Iran was sitting on the table of negotiation. They were negotiating any kind of deal. I don't know the details of the deal, but like they were negotiating things. They never said we want to, to hit Israel. but they said that we have the right to defend ourselves if Israel hit us. And that's what they are doing now. I'm not saying they are good or bad. I'm not saying nothing out of this because it's, affecting us. I'm scared of these missiles also. But come on, like people, wake up, wake up. Those leaders are just dragging us in a rabbit hole, I don't want to say a worst word, but like, let's say rabbit hole that we will never get out of it unless we decide to as people.
Well, see, I'm not sure that that's true what you're saying about that Iran never said we want to destroy Israel. I mean, I think there have been Iranian leaders who speak that way, but certainly not all Iranian leaders, and certainly not the people of Iran. I don't think that we should be blaming the people of Iran. I do think that there are Iranian leaders that would like to see Israel, destroyed. It's just that the question is like what you said about how to deal with that. Whether we deal with that via negotiation or via military bombardment. I feel like the problem with the Israeli government is that Bibi Netanyahu always prefers bombardment. I mean, it's the same strategy that he's been using with Gaza, and he uses everywhere. He used with Lebanon,
but
where
Ilana,
the international community.
sorry, Ilana, let me interrupt you this time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
maybe there are leaders who are saying this, or they hate Israelis, or they hate Jews, or they want to kill you all, or whatever. I know that these people exist, okay?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we have to punish a whole country,
Right.
a whole country
Right.
for some leaders for what they are saying. There is international law, there is UN, there is so many things out there to protect you guys.
Right. So I feel like that's the main
Bibi
point.
Netanyahu
Right.
cannot make the decision on behalf of everyone just to hit a country, a state. They are not just people who are sitting, in a
Right.
stateless state. They are like a state. You cannot do that. And then he's not attacking Iran only. He's attacking all of us here in this land.
Well, he's using us as bait. He's using us as, for target practice. Like
Exactly.
we're all bait. So, I totally agree with you. I'll tell you what I totally agree with you on. I agree with you 100% that he's using us as bait, and that, that he sabotages talks all the time. I 1,000% agree with you that that these issues should be dealt with negotiation, not with, bombarding civilians. And these are the same things that we're saying all the time about Gaza, is that, over and over again, we're saying about Gaza that we need, negotiation, we need diplomatic solutions, we need long-term diplomatic solutions that respect people's lives and dignities and rights and all of that. We've been saying that about Gaza. We've been saying that about the West Bank, and Bibi Netanyahu and his group ignore it all the time and instead go for control and violence and bombardment and ignoring international law. And now we're just seeing that same pattern. The same pattern with Iran, where he ignored international law and he ignored every opportunity for negotiation. He said no to every American president, who comes and says negotiation, every UN group that comes and says negotiation. Bibi Netanyahu comes and says no, and instead chooses this path of violence and killing innocent people. I mean, yeah. I totally agree with you on that.
And putting his own people in danger.
Yeah.
He's risking it all for his, for his next, how do you call it, when they want to vote for him, to say, I get rid of Iran, who wanted to kill us all. But this is not anymore valid. Everybody knows the truth. Everybody knows that he's using everything on this holy land, even his own people, to just stay on his chair. Everybody knows. Like, people are aware of that. Like, if you came 2 years ago and did this unprovoked attack on Iran, maybe I would say like more people will believe him and will stand up with him. But now, after 2 years of bombarding Gaza and killing people and genocide in Gaza, nobody believes him anymore. And he's putting all of us in danger. And Iran will not stop. Iran will not stop. As the same like Hamas did. Yes, he bombed all Gaza, he killed all people. They will not stop. They will not stop because Hamas is not a person. And I always say it. Hamas is an ideology. And an ideology, you don't kill it by killing people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Ideology, you don't kill it by killing people. On the contrary, by trying to kill the ideology, by killing people, you are just creating a worse version of that ideology, a
Right.
more severe and more brutal and more dangerous.
Because you're giving people incentive to hatred. You're giving
Of
people
course,
reason
to
to hate.
revenge.
You're
Like
giving
for now,
people,
for me as a peace activist, 2 years ago, before the 7th of October and before all this genocide that is happening now and unfolding in front of our eyes, I was able to go openly and freely and talk about peace and how I love my neighbors and I want to live in peace with them, even with all the mistakes and with all the brutality that happened in the past. There was a place to forgive and do reconciliation. Maybe we will not forget, we will never forget, but at least we will open a new page for a better future for all of us. But nowadays it's now harder for me. Like, how come? And I will talk about peace while my people are still in Gaza starving. People, the first night when they attacked Iran, they cut all the electricity, the main electricity on Gaza. People were without electricity. They are doing with them like have you ever watched the movie The Hunger Games? It's the same, where they put some people in a closed area and they put them for a test, and then these people have either to kill them each other and to find food or to find power or to find the escape or whatever. Or like, for example, Squid Game. The other day I saw footage, I was just
oh,
crying. It's like a Squid Game. Red light, green light, red light, green light. And people were like really like running. And then they would like, someone would shout and they will run. And then they will stop and then they will shoot them. Like, come on, what is this? Where are we? It's not
yeah,
about now Israel and Palestine. This is out
yeah,
of even the story of Israel and Palestine. This is
yeah,
this is a pure evil.
yeah.
This is evil.
I'll tell you what, the images that coming out of Gaza that I really, really like torment me are the images of the people online, like waiting online for food, being shut out. People like in absolute desperation, traveling miles to try to get a box of food that they can take home. And while they're in that place, they're being shut at. I mean, I can't, I can't, I can't stomach those images. I mean, what are we? What have we become? I can't. It's just, like what you're describing, that desperation of like the Squid Game and all of those things. It's like reality. You're sending people to this cruel, unbearably cruel place. How on earth did we get here? I can't believe that. Anyway,
And still people are cheering for that. I don't understand how Israelis who suffered for decades, for and
yeah,
in the like 100 years ago, or I don't know how many years, they have suffered from the Holocaust, they have suffered brutal regimes. They escaped and they survived, and they were heroes, and now they are allowing themselves to do this for others. Come on, people, you Israelis have to be the first one to stop that. I know that there are Arabs or Palestinians or other nationalities who would say, we hate Jews, we want to kill them, ta 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 ta. But listen, let's back to the history. I don't want to start to say who started it all, but like there has been
yeah.
lots of horrible things also to Palestinians or to Arabs.
I really feel that too. Like the images that I was describing about the lines of people. Also, they were caged in some places. People
Exactly.
who are caged and desperate of being shut at. Those bring back Holocaust images for me too. They absolutely bring back Holocaust images,
Of course.
and I just
We've
it's so
seen
tormenting.
pictures from the Holocaust.
It's
There
so
have been
tormenting.
so
I
many.
mean, what you're describing, Amira, I just want to tell you that torments me. That absolutely torments me. Exactly what you're describing. And exactly what you're describing. I grew up, and my family was very affected by the Holocaust. My husband's family even more. My husband like grew up entirely in the shadow of the Holocaust. His, grandparents lost all their family and all that. This is stuck in our consciousness. And I'm looking at these images and I'm just like, I can't. I don't know. I can't. I really just can't. I mean, I'm with you. I can't. But I do want to tell you something, though. I was at this Paris Peace Conference with 500 Palestinians and Israelis, and everybody in the Paris Peace Conference was affected, okay? Everyone was affected in like a lot of ways. I mean, I just want to tell you, I woke up, it started on Wednesday afternoon, evening, and then there was the plane of Palestinians coming from the West Bank. There was one charter plane coming through Amman. They didn't arrive till the middle of the night between Thursday and Friday, and that's exactly when all of this started. So I woke up in the morning, right? So we were scattered around different hotels. And in the hotel that I was in, there was a delegation of like 16 Palestinians. And I came downstairs in the morning and I had just discovered what was happening. And I saw this group of Palestinians sitting right by the lobby. And they're all like anxious. They're like wow, anxious. And, just they could barely get words out of their mouths. And we introduced ourselves. We hadn't met the night before, and it was like I've never felt that much tension. And I realized, as much as I was feeling tension because, my family is in Israel. The people that I love most in the world are in Israel, and they're all in shelters, and these bombs are deadly and all of that. And I'm realizing that however bad, we Israelis have it, the Palestinians will always have it worse. And I was talking also to this one woman, and she was telling me from Ramallah, and she left her daughter behind. She has a 1-year-old daughter, left her behind with her parents. And I couldn't imagine that, first of all, she had no idea when she was going home. There's still a ton of people who have no idea how they're getting home. The charter plane eventually did make it back to Jordan. They were some of the first ones to get back, and they made it back. So actually that group is now okay. But at the time, they had no idea how long they were going to stay and all of that. And it's just anyway, despite all that, on Friday morning, all of us went, 9 a.m. We showed up at the location for the conference, and there were a lot of important people there, members of government and diplomats, and a lot of organizational directors, lots of civil society people and lots of UN people and EU people. And we did it. We got down to work, and we did this. We had these eight working groups to develop detailed plans and proposals for the UN, for what was meant to be the UN meetings this week, which will be put off till next week or the week after, whatever. But we did it. Palestinians and Israelis sat together in these rooms, and we shared a lot of values. We shared a lot of vision. We shared the idea of humanization of the other, of freedom, of equality, of justice, of the belief that there is another way, and we must right now create a different reality, because this must not continue. That was shared, even with everybody's differences. I had in one panel that I was in, I had on my left, I had a woman who was a survivor of October 7th. She lives on the Gaza border, and she's there saying, this is not okay. The violence is not okay. What Israel's doing is not okay. All of it's not okay. And on my right was a Palestinian guy whose entire family's in Gaza. He lives in London. That's why he was able to come. There was a group of 40 Gazans that were supposed to come, and in the end they got stuck in Egypt. They were stuck by the bureaucracy and whatever it is, whatever forces it were that decided that they shouldn't come. And it was very upsetting. And a lot of people were like, well, maybe we should boycott the whole thing. But, we didn't, because we didn't want to waste this opportunity. But anyway, so this guy from Gaza, he was in London, so that's why he was able to come anyway. So he was describing, the real experiences of his family. And the woman on my left was describing the experiences of her family. And they were speaking the same language. I'm saying? They were speaking the same language, and they shared the vision for the future. They shared the vision for humanity. We came together and made real suggestions and recommendations for ending the war, and ending the killing, and ending the starvation practices, and getting Israel out of Gaza, and empowering the people of Gaza to self-run, and all these other things. It was shared. And the idea that everybody, from these different sides, with such different experiences and traumas and, pasts, can come together and still agree on all of those basics, that was really inspiring, I have to say. It was really hopeful for me. Even in all this, even though we had woken up that morning to this insanity, and where everybody is worried about their people, everybody's got stuff going on with this. Still, we got to work and we stuck to the ideas. I'm saying we stuck to the mission. It was like crazy, unbelievable. Like it was really, I left really like inspired by this, because I know also for those 500 people who were there were like thousands more who couldn't come. Like you were very missing to me there. I have to say, you were really, really missing for me there, And so I knew that there were like a lot of people who, like, I feel like, Amira, I feel like you would have felt good there. I feel like, I can't speak. I don't know for sure. Okay. Well, I'm just imagining that you would feel represented, that you would feel like, based on our conversations, I feel like the guy from Gaza, I felt like was talking in a lot of the same language you speak and the same ideas. And I didn't disagree with him about anything. I felt his pain, and I really just, I want what he wants. I really wanted the same thing that he wanted. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I wanted to come.
Yeah.
I actually, I think that people who really want to, or if they are, who didn't lose hope yet, are important to be in that
Yeah.
conference. I didn't want. I couldn't come because I was supposed to receive the trainer on Friday, and the activists, my practitioners, on Sunday, which was yesterday. And things happened, and the Ben Gurion airport was closed, and nobody came. And our project, it's not postponed, but we're waiting for the right moment for those practitioners to come, to be able to come from Ben Gurion. So we're waiting for the Ben Gurion airport to open. We're not sure.
Right.
And we are like also searching for the second option, which is coming through Jordan or through Egypt or whatever. So we're still not sure when they will come, but definitely when the time or when the opportunity happens, or when the sky is safe enough, they will come.
I'm sorry that happens. I mean, so much has been like just completely rattled, and also there's this sense of like, when is this going to be over ever, and how much are our lives going to be, on hold? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like our lives are we're just pawns. I feel like our lives are just, meaningless in all of this, that they knew it was going to happen. I feel like Bibi Netanyahu knew exactly what was going to happen, didn't really tell us, didn't inform us, but like thought it was okay to sort of play with our lives. That's what you feel like. You feel like they're playing with us, and they think that that's okay and that that's legitimate. And like, oh, okay, so our lives are completely upended. All of our plans are upended, and okay, la-di-da. It's like, it's really a terrible, terrible feeling that, builds up on other terrible feelings of, feeling like we don't matter and our voices don't matter.
Exactly. But that's why I say we need more people to speak up, and not just speak, but really like speak with action, like something like the summit, to continue that step, not just to meet in Paris for 3 days, talk about, what we want, but then do nothing about what we really want. To push whatever happened in the summit to take more like practical steps, not only with Macron or with the Saudi Arabia, but like with others, like make maybe a smaller group who represents the people who were in Paris, and like start going around and like going even like to our leaders and tell them, "Khalas, enough, must speak, khalas. We don't want that. We don't want that."
Right. The third day of the conference was dedicated to that. The third day was people sitting down and doing all of that, like next steps, working groups and all of that. And our very, very last session on Shabbat afternoon was all about this, was about like next steps and ensuring next steps and all of that. So AllMap is definitely, and AllMap was running all that, and AllMap represents 180. They said even more than 180 organizations now, which is incredible. They're constantly more. And I asked them if we could join. I said, look, our Women Ending War podcast isn't really an organization, but we would love to join and be. There was a lot of discussion about media and the importance of independent media. And I was like, oh, we totally believe in that, and we would love to be in touch. And I spoke to John about it, John London. He was great, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, let's talk." Okay, so we did all that late Shabbat afternoon. And then, of course, we scattered. And then everybody, like hundreds of people had to figure out how they're getting home. And so we all are stuck in logistics, not like some people have made it home. There was that charter that got home through Jordan, and there are people who went through Egypt, and then there are people who don't live in Israel. There are a couple of people, who went to other places, but like there are still, I would say, at least 200 people, and OLMEP is managing all of this at the moment. So
Wow.
like, it's going to be like it's going to be a while
Wow.
before we can all debrief, like before we can all like sit down and say, okay,
Yeah. What
conference is
happened?
over, now let's get back to
go.
work.
Yeah.
But everybody there was a lot of very genuine sincerity and very practical steps to say, okay, this has to happen next in this area. Like for instance, in media, like I really do hope to help continue that conversation about what it means to have a binational media, a binational, independently run and funded media. Like that's my dream. Like my dream is like not just this podcast, but that this podcast would be like one of, many different
many
types of
different
formats.
outlets, or yeah. Wow, that's really good. Inshallah, very soon you'll sit together again and start talking again when people are more settled down and when we know what will happen with this
Yeah.
crazy.
But I did get the sense. I mean, I did get what I was trying to say is that I did get the sense that a lot of people totally agree with you that this needs practical steps. So anyway,
Yeah, and Anna,
when we
I know here, at least, for example, from my circles, people who are just Palestinians, like who never even sat with Israelis on these kind of like talks, I know what they say. I know their thirst to a solution, to a real solution, to a just
yeah,
solution. But a lot of them just lost hope in
yeah,
in the justice system, in the international law, in even Israelis, and especially after the 7th of October, where many Israelis just turned their back and they didn't want to talk anymore. They just went into their like fear of like, you see, that's what they were telling us all the time about, that Palestinians want to kill us, and here it is, and so so many people now, from the people I know personally who are like true leaders who want to make a change, took a step back, because they just lost hope. And
I
those
understand
people
that.
also, we need to work on them to get them back on track, to get them back on, like to work towards a real solution. So, and I have many of them around me, Israelis and Palestinians on both sides.
Look, I totally get that, I really do get that why people would lose hope. And there was a certain point in this conference, where I like had this sort of understanding that every single Palestinian there had to overcome a lot of what I would call would be natural anger and resentment and like distrust and like kind of like, why should I sit with Israelis feeling? Like I sensed that. I sensed that every single Palestinian who showed up had to get over what would have been like a very natural, antipathy. Like, and they came and they showed up. And I feel like if they're showing up despite all that, I have a responsibility to honor that,
Exactly.
to really honor that. I felt that very strongly. It was like this like moment like of realization, like I'm looking around and I'm thinking, they're smiling, we're friends, we're taking pictures together and we're talking and it's like I really need to honor the journey that it takes for someone who's come from where they're coming from to get to this place.
Yeah, and all the also all the difficulties that they had to
Yeah.
go through to go to
Oh
Paris.
my God.
You know,
Oh my God. There's so
first
many
of all,
obstacles.
the way to Paris. For us,
Oh,
we don't have an airport. We're not allowed to travel through Ben Gurion, so we have to go to Jordan, crossing 3 land borders, and then like stay in Amman until we get our flight out of Amman. That's the first thing and the most horrible thing, because it's really horrible. The border lines are horrible. The treatment on the people who are working there is horrible. It's disrespectful. It's a very high temperature because it's the Jordan Valley, so it's too hot. Yet the places like the borders are not well prepared to get all these people in one place to cross that border. The second thing, so many people before even they went to this summit, they were intimidated. So many people got threatened. So many people were like threatened and were also accused of normalization. And we know who is behind that kind of attacks, and but still they risked it all, and they are coming to Paris. And all the respect to these people, for me, I respect them not because I'm just like Palestinian respecting my people, put it aside, but because they had to endure all these difficulties and still come and sit and talk about a better future for all of us. So yes, هكولا كفوت يعني for all of them.
If it wouldn't have been for all this Iranian stuff happening, I would have like left on a high. There was something about the gathering that was really, it's just that we went straight from there to like crisis, like intense crisis.
Yeah.
And the sense of like, every time we think it can't get worse, it gets worse.
It does.
And then it's even worse than we expected. And then it's even worse in ways that we couldn't even imagine. So it was like, but still, nevertheless, I'm hanging on to that. This was the biggest gathering of Palestinians and Israelis since October 7th. And so that's already, even if we have to go all the way to Paris to do, which is sad and terrible and all that, So that's one reason why, because I thought, okay, these things are happening. There's hope. I choose hope. I'm choosing hope despite everything. Despite everything seeming to be, getting worse. I'm choosing hope. You know what, Amira? It's because of you I choose hope, really, because we can keep talking. And as long as we can keep talking, and that we can find a shared language, even if we disagree, if you have different ideas about certain things, and obviously different life experiences.
Elana, my sister and I, we don't agree on things. My sister who lives just next to me, so I mean, my mom and I, we disagree on things, but it doesn't mean that we have to kill each other. That's what I am convinced of.
Yeah.
Each one has his own experience, but every day I sit with my mom on her balcony and drink coffee, and we talk about how we can move on in a better way, in a better understanding of each other. Maybe she will never understand me totally, and I will never understand her totally, but at least we will have a common ground, at least, to continue our life together, because at the end of the day, she's my mom, or she's my sister. And that's how I feel with you. You are my sister in humanity. You are my neighbor. Like Modi'in is just like half an hour from here, it's nothing.
That's true.
It's
lots
nothing.
of obstacles to see you, but yes. Sisters, I love that, Amira. My sister. How do you say sister in Arabic?
أختي.
Ukhti.
Mwah.
All right, ukhti. My ukhti, Amira. Thank you for chatting. To be continued.
Sure.
And stay safe.
Thanks for listening to Women Ending War. If you want to help create change, you should join us.
Subscribe, like, comment, or share. Tell your friends about us. Talk about it. Be part of the solution.
Thanks, and see you next time.